Shall we begin at the load area? Let's go backstage.
Basically, like a quick overview of it, we've got 8 different channels, so there's actually like 8 different noises happening all around us. And like, I talked to actually some like tech people in the School of Drama, and they were like, "Hey, why don't you use QLab?" And I was like, "All right, I'll use QLab."
We've been carrying them ourselves between the basement of Donner to this space, and yeah, it's.
I was storing all of them under my bed. I was like, I can't risk like any of this going missing or anything like that. Start all the sounds. If stuff gets delayed or whatnot, we've got like the delayed or zoom message.
We are pleased to inform you that museum tours are back on schedule.
Can you tell what you named the system?
The system's name is Captain Jack Rollard.
We were going to have 5 vehicles actually. We ended up having 4 because Steve didn't have a side panel. He's the photo op one.
I found that I think maybe operation with 5 would have been a little too much congestion.
Yeah, so
maybe
I feel like that would have been a problem.
Maybe it's good that way. And it kind of reminds me of Top Girl Dragster. That has 6 trains on services, or on service, and they only run 5 because it's the most efficient way they can run that ride. And that's just the kind of things you learn along the way of developing a ride.
Mm-hmm. Correct. All right, so let's go to our first set of displays over here.
One sec.
Yes.
Do you want to tell them about these
Oh,
corners?
fun story.
They're in interesting shape, aren't
So these track pieces were initially supposed to be on 4-foot wide bases, so like the geometry of the ride vehicle would not have been a problem. The wheels would have always been on the track base, but we ended up cutting it down because we were just like, honestly, this is a lot of material for no reason. And one of the things we found was that the geometry ended up being that the cart wheels would jump up onto the track. So we literally took a saw
and a drill and we perforated it and tore it off with the board.
Sheena was probably, Sheena and Monica were definitely the most involved with doing that, so give them a round of applause.
You know those pieces of wood in the construction site? Yeah, those are the pieces we tore off. Hey, Jack, you want to talk about your really high-tech engineering?
Oh, yeah. So I took this really lovely, like, $800 iPad, and I just freaking bolted it to the wall. Because that's what you do. This is worth, like, half the cost of our ride, and I just bolted it to the wall. So, there we go.
All right, now continue, Monica.
So our first set pieces are sort of to give you the feeling of being in a museum before it comes to life. They're probably our most simple ones because they're static, they're not really going to move. But yeah, the iPad triggers the audio then, so as the tour guide comes through, they can quick tap that.
That is actually another attachment piece from a Traver Tumblebug, and I don't know if you noticed, but it looks like, that's real heavy. It looks like that is real rough, and that's because it is. All of these are Babbitt bearings. Those were hand poured by the people who operated this ride.
So, Leonard Adams, who is, one of the vehicles is named after him, actually willingly donated us not only the Babbitt bearing pieces, but also this sprocket. Now, who can name a recently defunct wooden coaster in North Carolina? we got two-pack here, yes.
Two-pack.
Yes.
Ooh.
So, this was a lift sprocket from the top of one side because it was a racing coaster. It's 120 pounds.
It weighs about as much as him.
Yes.
It took 3 football players to bring it over. Like,
And,
it was crazy. I
they
guess you're
were-
not a football
I'm not a
player.
football player.
Mind you, Leonard Adams carried that thing down the stairs inside the den where we're working by himself.
It's not
The
real.
industrial cart itself is actually real. That is from the chemical engineering department here, and we just kind of borrowed it from them.
Here we have our display showing you the temperature of the blast furnace as the audio tells you about that, but you've all have ridden the ride, so you know that this is where the audio starts to cut out, things start to go awry.
We call it the lava lamp.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like a lava.
All right.
For the last ride, can we just turn this thing like psychedelic, like the lighting? I actually just thought of that. That's great.
You mean tomorrow?
Oh yeah. Inside some of the parts of this ride, we have these little aroma diffusers, like essential oil diffusers, because we're really nice in 21st century. The smell in there is actually burning coals, and I found that scent on Amazon for $10. Right behind you, when you're riding through here, is the speaker. The whole blast furnace is comprised of 8 sections. This is, I believe, one of the only self-supporting structures in the ride. It's kind of living. It moves. We were having some issues today where like the latch on the other side of this door that you exit through was just not closing because the wall had like over. Hey Monica, you want to tell them what the rivets on the wall are made of?
Okay, so I figured it just looked really plain, and I was like, it's supposed to be metal. Let's put some rivets on it. And so they're Nilla wafers.
She went
You want to
campus
Cheap.
convenience
And we
store.
could get them on campus.
By 30% recycled material on this ride, we really mean 30%. Can you pull that cord right behind your head?
Yes, this is the
Wow.
magic trigger.
Woo! Mechanical engineering. As your actor comes out of the blast furnace, they actually come behind it and trigger the special effects that happen.
Yeah.
So, we have a fun name for the control board back here. Yeah, actually, if you watch your step, you can come to the other side too and see it.
Just watch the spaghetti clump.
So when your tour guide comes back here, they actually click this blast furnace trigger, and the sound comes on. They simultaneously press this button. I'm gonna turn this on, and you can see the beauty that I like to call the Hot Boy 2000. That little device right here that's clicking, that is an mechanical relay, which is like an electrical switch, and you can't see it really well, but that's what's causing the light to flicker in there. That is probably my most proud creation because it's the most annoying thing I've ever made. What happens here, the other relay was actually supposed to be controlling heat guns above your head, but I didn't have an extra extension cord, so I homebrewed it and took it out.
Hi everyone, my name's Chad, my name tag says.
Hi,
Okay.
So yeah, the steam engine, it definitely went through some iterations. The very beginning design, we found it from the original and trusty Google images of a steam engine, and we were trying to base it off of that since we weren't going to reinvent a steam engine for this
Reinvent
project.
the wheel?
Whoa, reinvent how to turn the wheel. Yeah. Instead of doing that, we decided to have like a magic box idea. We wanted to make it look like the steam was turning the wheel, when in fact, underneath the magic box, there's actually like just a DC motor or something like that would be turning the wheel, which then would be reverse, like process causing the motion to go back all the way to where the steam powered part of the steam engine would actually be.
Before we go any further, do you want to show them the block system?
Yeah.
This was completely designed and built by Donovan.
Well, Rolly did help me. He gave me the sort of the rudimentary backbone behind it. But we were supposed to have a sort of an IR sensor system. IR sensors were really hard to solder to these long speaker wires. It was lying around in PhysComp. We've taken a lot of things from PhysComp, which is physical computing. It's like an Arduino lab. These blocks are mainly at corners where the pusher can't really see the other side, essentially, so they don't know if there's a cart there already. And essentially the cart rolls over, hits a limit switch like that. It turns this light red. The first one was supposed to be sort of bookending the blast furnace, so there's an entrance switch there, exit switch here. The next one, of course, is the rail straightener, which is you can't really see from here. So the cart would roll over, it would hit this switch, light turns red. So then, as soon as the cart makes its way past the rail straightener, go ahead and ping that switch, turns it back to green. Now, we don't have, or did it turn back to green? Yes. Fantastic. That'd be really embarrassing. Right next to that is actually a similar switch. It's not part of the block system. It's actually a trigger for the rail straightener.
We originally had an entirely wireless control system that actually worked,
Yeah.
but we didn't want to have to solve the issue of keeping everything powered all the time, so we were just like, screw it, let's do the block system. So the process for starting this up is just pull out the e-stop button, you get a flashing green light on our control panel to confirm startup, and then it's going to start moving in like a second. Hey. Okay. This is a huge air cylinder behind this big, hefty piece of plywood. Right now, I think it's only operating on like 50 psi of pressure. The rail is directly attached to it via a custom, e.g. homebrew shackle, that we hacksawed from a corner brace that's usually used to do framing on houses. The rail is just a bunch of 2x4s put together, as all things in this ride are. Ooh, fancy! So all the stuff controlling that is right back here. This, if you want to look at this, you can kind of take a look behind. We call this Sean the Sheep, after Sean Lynch.
Sean Lynch. Sean Lynch is a lead electrician or a supervisor in electrical maintenance at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas.
Yes. And
Other controls.
And also you can see our spaghetti of airlines.
The funny thing about this is, if you ride coasters, anytime you go into like a brake run, there's usually like, well, a big enclosure to house electronics and solenoids for the brakes. So it's actually pretty.
Also, who's ready for depressurization?
It all follows the steel production line of a typical steel mill. So after the steel would go through the straightener and get turned into these railroad or then they would have them on cooling racks, and then they would also have pieces that would be poured and formed, and so that's what we were going for with the crucible, and with this was also kind of a last minute addition with everything falling down from it.
When I was applying it to some of these pieces, my hand was glowing. I mean, it looked like I had just dipped my hand in that.
All that's on there is another little, we use a lot of Arduinos to control our stuff, which is just, it's just a type of microcontroller. This one is hooked up to, it's called an L298N H bridge, and that's just so that we could reverse the motion of the motor. There's a little winch mechanism on it. And once again, our very homebrew speaker wire spool was used to be a pulley at the top.
We've been doing so many tests in like the sketchiest places with this because it's so hard to find like an axis or like we didn't even use a pulley wheel. We just kind of went over any hanging horizontal bar we could find.
Wait, the first time we did this, how did we do it?
I was the pulley, essentially. It was more like a bushing because it was just kind of rolling, running on.
He had a PVC pipe in his hand.
PVC pipe, holding it like this, a cord went over it.
This was a last minute addition because it's kind of funny.
Yeah, so the storyline goes that you enter sort of construction site, but you took a wrong turn, so that's why we have the extra tracks.
This originally was going to be like the final exhibit of the tour, but we said, hey, let's make it more visually interesting. Let's make it into a construction site. You know why? Because budget cuts, that's why. That porta potty is actually a storage locker for baseball, which
that was here when we got the room.
Yeah, I didn't even know baseball existed. These are the pieces. These are the pieces of track that were so graciously sawn off by Shinu and Monica. Fun fact, this skeleton is actually from the old mill, but not really, I'm lying. The original Kennywood Old Mill just had all these plastic skeletons in it, and we loved it so much that we decided to take a skeleton I had gotten for Halloween one year and repurpose it into an Easter egg.
Rolly, tell them about the person who painted the dino.
Oh my God, this was one of my friends that literally was like, hey Rolly, can I paint a dinosaur on your ride? And I was like, okay, come on in. And they came in and they painted a dinosaur and they left. Yeah. We originally were supposed to have the lockers that are sitting in like the maintenance bay emptied out, and we were gonna put our own things in them and make it like a final display and make it where you could buy your merchandise out of. But it didn't end up happening. We were trying to think of how to do this, and we said, hey, you're coming out of a construction site. You're ending up in a place where you're not familiar with, that the employees are like, oh wait, we're not supposed to be here, but get out! Yeah, that's why it looks really bad and really construction-y, because it kind of is. So that is the old mill. That's a 1.5 years worth of work. Many changes made within the past couple of days.
Yeah.
Yay for Donovan, Jack, and Shinu for being my students in Roller Coaster Stuco.
And now I am Rolly's co-instructor for that.
What was it that was said the other day? We were doing an interview with the Tartan, and I was like, oh, the line between co-teacher and friend is getting really blurry. And Jack was like, wow, that's so tender.
What's been the most difficult part of this experience?
Losing sleep over it. And then afterwards, we're all going to experience what Christine calls post-project depression.
Yeah.
I know I am. Yeah, it was hundreds of hours from everybody involved.
Start planning next year.
Yay!
It never stops.
Never ever stop designing.
He is to take a break.
Yeah. I think we have to take a break for like a week. Wait, what is everybody's major? Christina?
Cognitive science, just declared.
Shinu?
Art, but I'm also taking some computer science classes.
Architecture.
Ooh.
Electrical and computer engineering.
Mechanical engineering.
Electrical and computer engineering.
I'm Dietrich Trash. Information systems. So for the #1 person to tell me that I'm not crazy, I'm giving that to Monica. She was the first person on the team. Monica.
Oh, yeah.
For the best 5-star hotel, I'm giving it to Jack because he housed me for the past week.
Ooh.
For the best homebrew engineer and loaded MVP, I'm giving that to Benton, but Bacon's not here, so I'll give it to the camera. And for the minimum viable person, the MVP, I'm giving that to Donovan because I think he spent the second most amount of hours on this project. Good job, Donovan.
Yes, Donovan.
Donovan.
That's my nickname, Dobby.
Dobby. Well, that's the old mill. We are the old mill, honestly. This
Yeah.
is a long project.
And I think one thing you kind of always wanted with this was make it about the people in the steel industry.
Yeah.
So we are the people of the old mill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is true. Yay, old mill!